Ron Paul's very dedicated.
Just bang.
Now it's time for truth.
This guy over here has an automatic weapon with his finger near the trigger. And people who were, peacefully disrupting construction said that, law enforcement came and, basically held them at gunpoint with automatic weapons. So yeah, we've got Morton County Sheriffs out here. This is Mercer County Sheriff's Department. Most of these more militarized riot police are state troopers from the North Dakota Highway Patrol. So this morning, a bunch of people came in and locked themselves to, right here is a construction site where they're putting the Dakota Access Pipeline in the ground. Some time went on, and then, about this group of, dozens of state troopers in riot gear showed up. They told everyone, we were over here. They told everyone over here, don't trespass over here. You'll be arrested if you trespass. We've stayed over here in the time since that order was given. But yeah, so that is what the pipeline looks like, folks. It's right there. It's definitely, construction has not stopped on the Dakota Access Pipeline, except in a very small contested area. So they're pointing at everyone with cameras saying, he's going, she's going. So it seems like they're targeting media for arrest. We might be getting arrested here.
Thank you. Welcome to Command College. You've just embarked on the most challenging course that the Academy has to offer, and also the most rewarding. It is often said that command school cadets are the best of the best, and it's also said that I commanded the best ship and the best crew. Truth is, there's no such thing as the best. One ship may be brand new, state-of-the-art, but it also has countless bugs to work out. Another ship may be 100 years old and shake like a rattle, but the bugs are long gone, and that's why she's 100 years old. Same goes for your crew. They may be technical wizards, but if they can't work as a team, their skills are useless to you. When you meet your crew, you'll find 1,000 abilities and talents and flaws all crackling against each other. And that's where you come in. Those of you who succeed in building a team will be among the elite few to take us to the stars. Good luck, fair weather, and never forget that risk is your business.
Hi guys, Real Neo here. Deja B, Brian Thornton. We are heading to North Dakota. Got the cannabis loaded up, leaving the race car. But this will be the first of many videos that we'll be putting up about our trip. We're loading up right now and getting up a lot more supplies. As you can see, we've been busy making buttons. Lots of cool buttons. Lots of cool stuff. Standing rock. We've done all kinds. So be sure to like and sub. I'm going to put in our GoFundMe link with this video. Please give us some help. Got a long way to go and a lot of work to do. Thank you very much for your time. It's live from the cannabis. Deja B out.
in North Dakota. Here you have a lot of riot police. People have shut down the pipeline for between an hour and a half to 2 hours ago.
Breaking. Riot police begin mass arrests at Dakota Access Pipeline. FB censors video at a critical moment of our coverage of a Dakota Access Pipeline direct action today. Facebook's automated censorship system blocked our video URL shortly before 2 of our journalists were arrested on site. As we started to cover today's direct action, our collective members immediately noticed that the full live stream was being blocked from Facebook. Posts and comments with the URL both immediately triggered pop-up security alerts. We tried putting the same URL through bit.ly shortening, and that official Unicorn Riot page post was deleted by Facebook within a few minutes. Finally, we went with sharing our live channel URL on our own website, which had the embed included on it. We also verified that the Facebook debugger warned that our live video URL violated community standards. Both Facebook and law enforcement acted to block our media distribution today, but we will not let them stop our mission to amplify the voices of people who might otherwise go unheard, and broadcast the stories that might otherwise go untold. Also, as one member of the collective, I should point out it is obviously concerning when a large media conglomerate blocks URLs to competing video platforms. A surveillance plane was also seen patrolling the protest site, reports Unicorn Riot. Anti-Media has reached out to Morton County Sheriff's Department for comment and will update this story if they respond.
We will stop it. You see that eagle grabbing a pipeline by the neck? That's the Dakota Access Pipeline, the black snake, being taken down by a Native American eagle.
Let's go behind the banner. And last November, President Obama stood on a podium at the White House and canceled the permit for the Keystone Pipeline. Time has come again.
Oil is dead. That's not hyperbole. Water is life. Oil is death. That's not hyperbole. What is oil? Oil is some stuff that's been dead for millions and millions of years. Oil has been dead for 60 million years. Coal has been dead for 150 million years. Somebody got a brainstorm to go and dig up a bunch of dead stuff and then burn it. Burn it in their engines, burn it in their power plants. And now they're shocked. They're shocked that having pulled death out of the ground, we now have death in the lungs of our children in the form of asthma. And we now have death on our oceans in the form of oil spills. And we now have death from the skies in the form of climate chaos. What did you think was going to happen when you started digging up all this death? What did you think was going to happen?
To the Standing Rock Reservation because they deemed that the population of Bismarck was way too risky. And they said our reservation, they put it up for sacrifice. They said our people were willing to be sacrificed.
No! No! No!
They said our children.
By other speakers is the issue of water. And there are those who believe that in the future, the wars that will be fought on this planet will not be over oil, they will be over water. We've got to protect our water resources. We cannot allow our drinking water to be poisoned so that a handful of fossil fuel companies can make even more in profits.
Democracy Now!'s coverage in North Dakota over Labor Day weekend of the Native American-led protests against the Dakota Access Pipeline. On Saturday, September 3rd, Democracy Now! Filmed security guards working for the Dakota Access Pipeline Company using dogs and pepper spray to attack protesters.
these people are just threatening all of us with these dogs. And that woman over there, she was charging them and it bit somebody right in the face.
The dog has blood in its nose and its mouth.
And she's still standing here threatening you.
Why are you letting her dog go after the protesters? It's covered in blood. Democracy Now!'s video report went viral online. Our footage was rebroadcast on many outlets, including CBS, NBC, NPR.org, CNN, MSNBC, and Huffington Post. Also charged was Cody Hall for his alleged presence at the September 3rd land defense action and for a subsequent protest on September 6th. Hall is considered a lead organizer in the movement against the Dakota Access Pipeline and was arrested at one of the checkpoints that have been erected by North Dakota authorities to restrict access to the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation and the growing pipeline opposition camps. Hall was denied bail and remained in jail throughout the weekend. Hall's attorneys and several others we spoke to confirmed it's highly unusual for a defendant charged with misdemeanor trespass to be jailed and denied bail. According to the complaint, the charges are based on a viewing of Democracy Now!'s video report of the incident conducted by the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Special Agent Lindsay Wohl's sworn affidavit states that I was there as a journalist. Wohl wrote, quote, Amy Goodman can be seen on the video identifying herself and interviewing protesters about their involvement in the protest, unquote. The criminal complaint was approved by Assistant State's Attorney for Morton County, Gabrielle J. Goder. To date, none of the private security personnel shown in the video, both assaulting protesters and commanding their dogs to attack them, have been charged or arrested. Democracy Now! Is consulting with attorneys in North Dakota as well as at the Center for Constitutional Rights. CCR Legal Director Bahar Azmi said, quote, this is clearly a violation of the First Amendment, an attempt to repress this important political movement by silencing media coverage, unquote.
Texas company commits to controversial Dakota Access Pipeline. A group from the Saginaw Chippewa Reservation in Mount Pleasant, Michigan wait to raise the reservation's flag after entering an encampment where hundreds of protesters have gathered on the banks of the Cannonball River to stop construction of the Energy Transfer Partners Dakota Access Oil Pipeline near the Standing Rock Sioux Reservation in Cannonball, North Dakota. Energy Transfer Partners CEO Kelsey Warren said in a memo to employees that the four-state, 1,172-mile project is nearly 60% complete and that concerns about the pipeline's impact on the local water supply are unfounded. The Standing Rock Sioux tribe and others argue the project will impact drinking water for thousands of tribal members and millions downstream. I am confident that as long as the government ultimately decides the fate of the project based on science and engineering, the Dakota Access Pipeline will become operational. So we will continue to obey the rules and trust the process, he wrote. Standing Rock Tribal Chairman Dave Archambault said he and the thousands of others who have gathered at an encampment in southern North Dakota to protest won't budge. People are still coming down here and are committed to stopping the project, he said. Warren's memo, which was released to some media outlets, is the first time in months the company has provided significant details of the project. The company often has ignored requests for comment from the Associated Press. Our corporate mindset has long been to keep our head down and do our work, his memo said. It has not been my preference to engage in a media PR battle. However, misinformation has dominated the news, so we will work to communicate with the government and media more clearly in the days to come. The Standing Rock Sioux is challenging the Army Corps of Engineers' decision to grant about 200 permits at water crossings for pipeline, which goes through the Dakotas and Iowa to Illinois. The tribe says the project will disturb sacred sites and impact drinking water. Wakaya Eagleman of the Sikongu Lakota told CBS News they just came in and destroyed it. Eagleman also blamed federal authorities for instigating violence during the protests. Yeah, you know they instigated the whole situation. They came to use their dogs on my people, Wakaya said. They came and mazed us. So what else are we supposed to do? We ain't going to stand and let them do this anymore. Energy Transfer Partners disputes the claims of Native Americans. The tribe's effort to temporarily block construction near its reservation on the North Dakota-South Dakota border was denied by U.S. District Judge James Boasberg on Friday. But minutes later, federal officials ordered a temporary halt to construction on Army Corps land around and underneath Lake Awe, one of 6 reservoirs on the Missouri River. 3 federal agencies also asked ETP for a voluntary pause in work for 20 miles, 32 kilometers, on either side of Lake Awe. The federal department said the case highlighted the need for a serious discussion about nationwide reforms with respect to considering tribes' views on these types of infrastructure projects. Archambault said the consultations were one-sided and that they met with us after their plans were already made.
I think all you need is a small taste of success, and you will find it suits you.
They're gathering. They're sending a message to the world that the American democracy system is a lie. They have no honor. None. All your ancestors, as well as mine, fought and paid for that right in blood. That's what them stripes on that flag represent. Yeah. Well, when you wake up, we're going to hate you for the 6 million Indians your ancestors slaughtered. Yet we joined you in wars and made this country great. And this is how you repay us. You violate our treaties, desecrate our graveland. For what? Corporate entities who want to get rich. Then you will suffer. All of you will suffer. Not just us. You will suffer. Your children will suffer. When the corporate entities control the water in the world and you have to pay for it. There's signs of it now with the bottled water. Can you afford that? I don't think so. Shame on this country. Shame on the money mongers who destroy the earth for profit. Shame on them all. Put this pipe in the ground. Have they stole from you? Your hard-earned tax dollars. Maybe somebody should audit the United States government. I served in that armed forces in Vietnam. I don't hate you. I know you have a job to do. Nobody's hating you. You have a job to do. We just ask no violence. Don't hurt anybody. We won't hurt you. We're assembling with the Constitution that we spilled blood on foreign soil to uphold gives us that right to protest and assemble. Some of your uncles and grandparents paid the ultimate price, never came back for that lie. If this be real, if this Constitution is real, then let justice and freedom ring, not lies. Not lies. We're tired of the lies. We're tired of the broken treaties, broken promises. We're trying to protect our water. Sacred to us. Understand that much. We're not going to let a pipeline go under the Missouri River. It's going to stop here. Or the whole world will know that America is nothing but a bunch of corporate thieves and liars. That they don't believe in that high axiom of liberty and justice, due process and equality, and the right to protest and assemble. The whole world will know that it's a lie. This is the age of social media. We can't be held back by yellow journalism. We can't be held back by corporate entities who control the media. The world is watching what's happening here today. Every day we make a move, the world is watching. North Dakota will be on trial for lying, blocking off the road and denying people the right to assemble. People who have paid for this right in blood on foreign soil. Iraq, Iraqi freedom, Vietnam, World War II, World War I, Korea. Paid for in blood that right. Shame on anybody who denies that right to a man who lives in a country that is truly free. We proved it to the world that we can stand together, white, black, red, and yellow, and make this the greatest country in the world. But we can't stand back and watch lies being perpetuated. We can't do it. We're Americans too.
Hello, my relatives. What I have to say about myself is that I've been to prison, I've been a thief, I've been a doper, a dope dealer, and I've also gone to college. I'm an accountant and a computer programmer, as well as getting my doctorate in philosophy. I've been everywhere in the strata of white society. I've even hung around with multimillionaires when there were no billionaires. I am an Indian, American Indian. I prefer American Indian to anyone born in the Western Hemisphere is a Native American. I'm an Oglala Lakota from the Pine Ridge Sioux Indian Reservation, which is still designated in the Defense Department as prisoner of war camp number 44. You see, Indian people, we don't have any rights, any constitutional protections on the reservation whatsoever. No freedom of speech, no privacy, Well, you Americans are in the same boat. As far as being an American Indian and a Lakota, I also belong to the Republic of Lakota, because a significant portion of my people withdrew from the treaties we made with the federal government, the 1851 and the 1868 Sioux treaties and American treaties signed at Fort Laramie, which is now Wyoming, but that's in the Republic of Lakota. So when we withdrew from the treaties because of gross violations according to the laws that the United States of America is signatory to, and we have a strategy for attaining our complete independence and a return for our land. I've written an autobiography, Russell Means, Where White Men Fear to Tread is the title. It's a very thick book, 550 pages, but I'm very proud. I've had 17 printings in 16 years. So people are interested in who we are. And it's actually a comprehensive history based on my family of our existence in the 20th century and the deprivations we went through and the trials and tribulations. And so if you really want to find out about us, read my book, and then you can go to research any place you want to. But you see, the sad thing in America is that we don't exist in the 20th century. You have to specialize in Indian education of some sort, anthropology, history, and then go and dig in the archives of wherever in order to find out anything about us in the 20th century. So there you have it. You know, the American people, for too long, have been an irresponsible, free people. And even generation to generation, as they've become less free, they don't recognize it. They have lost the ability of critical thought. In order to regain critical thought, all you have to do is read your Constitution and then look at the laws that govern you, especially from the federal perspective. It's unconscionable to allow your freedoms to be taken away decade after decade after decade, year after year. And I'm very proud of this, by the way. My nation, the Lakota, were the first nation to militarily defeat the United States of America on the field of battle. And that resulted in the 1868 Sioux Treaty. Be that as it may, what has happened after they economically forced us into these prisoner of war camps by destroying our food supply and our right of passage in our own land, they confined us to these, and then they began practicing and perfecting their colonial tactics. What has happened is now America, because of the irresponsibility of your forebears and the irresponsibility of yourselves, you are now on one huge Indian reservation. All policies were bred and born and birthed on an Indian reservation, and then exported to the world, and now comes back on the backs of the American people. You have a near-perfect document. In the words of Benjamin Franklin in 1744, to a collection of colonists discussing freedom, he said to them, and I quote, "If a nation to the north can form a near-perfect union that has endured for centuries, why cannot we form a more perfect union?" Unquote. So they're talking about the Iroquois Confederacy, and that's where the Constitution comes from. Because in 1988, on the eve of the 200-year anniversary of the Constitution, it was a unanimous thank you by the Congress of the United States. They sent in writing to the Six Nations Iroquois Confederacy, thanking them for their input into the Constitution and the formation of the United States of America. So you see, the Constitution is Indian law, and that's why I love it. You know, beginning in the 1840s, they start stripping away your freedoms by developing the corporation. You know, a piece of paper. A piece of paper. And then in the 1870s, of course, during Lincoln, when they declared martial law, and even after they ceased civil war, martial law continued on for another 3 or 4 years, when it was no need to. And you go on, but in the 1870s, that's when Congress started giving the banks the right to rule. And of course, you go on to 1913, and the beginning of the 20th century, that's when they officially gave away the power of our economy to the banks. You know? They can print the money for us. According to our Constitution, you should never allow, the people should never allow their money to be printed by someone else. Hello? So the history of the Indian and the history of the American have now come full circle and were intertwined in the dictatorial policies of those that control the monetary system of America. And they have done such a bad job of it that they're destroying themselves. It's ludicrous at best. What has happened in Indian policy, or I should say American policy now, is that because you don't have control of your money, the international community has refused to invest any more into the financial instruments of America because they know they're worthless, that the United States is too far in debt and cannot cover it. So consequently, they've refused to buy the bonds and the treasury notes, etc. At any rate, the Federal Reserve has been, for over a year, way over a year, been printing money when no one's buying the financial instruments of the United States. So what the Federal Reserve has been doing is buying those federal bonds and treasury notes and then printing more money. It's absolute suicide. And it's been proven from empire to empire that when you allow your human right, your individual rights to be usurped, that's when empire grows and could care less. I was growing up when this country, they started emptying this country. Around the 50s, the unions had become so powerful, they were about to form their own political party. They had shown during World War II how powerful they were in the vote for the presidency and the Congress. But they sat down with the bankers and the government around 1950, give or take a year, and they made a deal. The leaders of the unions made a deal with the leaders of America and sold out the unions. So when the people began to organize and gather and really have some power, it was negated. And it's been negated ever since. Ever since. You know, you have no privacy. None. You have no protections anymore. Now, I could be a smart aleck and say, how does it feel? Because I know how it feels living on a reservation, prisoner of war camp. Now, I can be an American, take my Social Security card and leave the reservation and be like the rest of you. You know, they welcome that because in America, they had forced relocation for Indian people back in the 50s. It was fostered under Truman, the relocation plan. And the man appointed to run that, the first man, he was the one who headed up the Japanese internment relocation program during World War II. So he went and headed up the relocation office for the American Indians, and I went on relocation twice. That's kind of a con job, but I made it out twice. And that's what they want to do, a diaspora. And therefore, guess whose land they're after? In our...
You mentioned in one of your last talks that petroleum wasn't what we thought it was, that it wasn't a fossil fuel, that it didn't come from fossil animal.
Yeah.
Is it just a mineral? Is it a mineral like any other mineral? Is that how it what would you say? What's the origin of
You see,
petroleum?
when they first found petroleum, because they were beginning to make motors and needed on axles of wheels on railroad trains and all that sort of thing, and remember trains started in the beginning of the 19th century, then oil went from just a lubricant to a fuel, and it made it valuable. And Rockefeller happened to be the smartest man in the business at the time, but he made most of his money, or much of it, off the transport of the petroleum as well as selling it. But one thing they realized was, because oil is putting a price on oil is like putting a price on a pail of water. You know, no initial cost. It's in the ground, and in those days they were, some of it, almost what you'd call surface mining the oil. They didn't go down deep. So in order to get the price up, they hit on the idea that they would have to make it appear to be scarce. That after we take the next few barrels out, we're probably going to have to close as well, you know, that kind of thing. Well, a very fortuitous event. In 1892, there was a convention in Geneva of scientists to determine what organic substances are. Well, the definition of organic is a substance with hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. And so it's usually a living substance, a tree. You analyze a dead tree, hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, and grass, and so on, living things. Animals, we are hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. So at this Geneva Convention, Rockefeller took advantage of sending some scientists over who said, oil, petroleum, is hydrogen, oxygen, and carbon. Therefore, it must be derived from the spoiling, the rotting of formerly living matter. And playing the game properly, when this scientific convention was over, they defined oil as the residue from formerly living matter. Well, that makes it a fossil fuel. I don't know why they decided to use the word fossil, but it says formerly living matter, it's fossil. Well, of course, today, and another thing we should know is that there has never been a fossil, a real fossil, found below 16,000 feet. And you can't argue at 16,000 as a level line, because someplace the ground sinks and so on. But 16 is what the scientists say, 16,000. We mine oil, or we drill for oil, at 30,000, 33,000, 28,000 every day of the week. So right there we rule it out that it isn't fossil fuel. It's called fossil fuel for the minds of the public to feel that it is an asset that is running out, being depleted. We talk about depletion allowance, which is a lot of, you know. And actually, if you know the world's oil supply, you know that it is not going to run out for an awfully long time. It is the second most prevalent liquid on Earth. And we haven't begun to... Well, with all that background, you see, the people in charge of the petroleum business, for perfectly reasonable business things, like any other man in the business, wants to keep his price as high as he can get away with. And the way to do is just say, well, there's no more. The last barrel is going to cost $1,000, and then it's all done. And they preach that stuff. What bothers me is that in geology books, it's in there. The geologists say it's a fossil fuel. Somehow they've been bought. I mean, I went to a 4-year federal staff energy seminar run by the government of the United States during the so-called energy crisis. I was the participant that represented the railroad industry. The airline industry was there. Every AA, administrative assistant of senators and congressmen, was there. The CIA was there. The Defense Department was there. The State Department was there. Sometimes sitting right in front of me in the row would be Henry Kissinger with his friend, the head of Department of Defense. That's too bad. I can't put the names with them. But anyway, people like that, top men in the government, sitting there listening to the Federal Staff Energy Seminar. Well, what this was doing is for 4 years, they were teaching a propaganda line to the leading people in this country, and therefore to the leading people in the world, when you include the Schlesingers, Kissinger and Schlesinger, among others. And the object of it was, as Kissinger used in his own terms when it was time for him to speak, to create a world price for oil. In other words, not 30 cents a gallon here and 90 cents a gallon there, but let's get a world price. That's their goal, and they're trying to do that for wheat and everything else. We don't realize what the controls are, whether it's oil or some of these other things. Almost everything today is being categorized at the highest price they can possibly make it go. And so calling petroleum a fossil fuel is the basis for this system with respect to petroleum. And I don't know if the name Arthur Kantrowitz rings any bell. Arthur Kantrowitz is the head of the Kantrowitz Labs set up by the Avco company near Boston, scientific laboratories. And a great man in the scientific world. And Kantrowitz and I were sitting at a table at this seminar once, and the table happened to be all young college grad, PhD geologists. And so just to get a conversation started, I turned to Kantrowitz and I said, Arthur, what do you think about this foolishness of these speakers talking about fossil fuel? And it was kind of put up. He started laughing. He said, you know, that gets me. He said, I don't have a geology degree, but he had 1,000 other degrees. And he said, I don't understand. He said, you'd think that these heads, these other fellows at the table, we did it on purpose, start listening, you know. And he asked, he said, are you gentlemen? He says, you're here at the meeting. Are you gentlemen by any chance geologists? And one fellow, yes, I am. And the other, yeah. He said, well, why don't you tell me? He said, why is oil? You know, he went on like that. We brought the house down because nobody could argue with Kantrowitz. He like Einstein. People aren't going to. And he told him right there. He said, just drop it. But it's in all the books and in all the papers. But it started from that strange meeting in 1892, a scientific convention. I have a big, thick scientific encyclopedia put out by the Divan Ostrin Company that's about 15 years old now, but it has the whole story of the conference. It doesn't have the Rockefeller part, but it has the whole story of how they straightened out organic chemicals and how it was all figured, and they've got petroleum right in there.
Amazing. Amazing. So
these aren't accidental things, you see. There's a dollar sign behind almost everything.
We were seduced by the glamour of it all.
A rally in Bismarck, and look what's coming our way. We're here to pray. We're here to pray, you guys. We're here to pray for these guys.
punished by forces moving in the air.
Away, or if the wind changes, you've got a flight path coming over your head, so suddenly the word cut is happening all the time.
Did you find that you were calling cut a lot? Because you're right, the plane noise is just everywhere, isn't it?
On Facebook, and now you're going to die.
The others don't want to talk about it because it scares them.
Have a good night, guys. You see it, baby? They don't lie. Let's go. They don't lie. They don't lie. They don't lie, tough guy.
Only thing of what you see is what you get, and you see me. I'm coming up and you come back.
That is the day when the world declared in one voice, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish. Not fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our independence.
Thank you, Captain.
We have reached a landmark settlement with the nation's largest bank.